Not even an entire sentence of show notes.
Not even. It's fine. I I have researched a rant if need be.
Okay.
I have been playing standard.
Yeah.
And I feel like, oops, where's that? I feel like standard is like the way they design sets now. I just feel like for limited, there's very similar cards.
Yeah.
That get printed over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
That like are standard power level, and so you just have very similar play patterns, kind of regardless of the standard format.
Yeah.
Just
I can see that.
so, as I was getting my, as I was, playing, a deck that requires me to resolve a 5-drop,
Mm-hmm.
into my opponent's, always having 2 mana with a blue open to, spell stutter me or make disappear.
Yeah.
And I went and I looked, and so like the first card, like, so there was Censor, it's paid 1, but like even before that there was Quench, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've had like a 2 mana counter your like 2 or 3 drop, like unless you pay whatever.
Yeah.
Almost like continuously since like Guilds. And then they keep just putting flash on more stuff.
Yeah.
So there's like no punish. And you're just, because like right now we have Spell Stutter and Bring the Ending, which doesn't even see play.
Right.
And I just mentioned it. Make Disappear. And it's just like, can we like stop printing the exact same card with like set mechanic on it? Right, so like we get different play
But that's easy mode.
It is, but like we've just had like the same card in standard.
Yeah.
Right, which then incentivizes the same, very similar decks in standard. Like, what did Lofty Denial incentivize? Small blue flyers, like a tempo deck.
Yeah.
Oh man, blue-black flash creatures and a conditional counterspell. What does that encourage?
Yeah.
A blue-black tempo deck that if anything ever resolves, you lose the game.
Basically.
Excellent. Yep, that's what we're gonna have you play against. Also, having played standard, the bigger standard pool has not led to a more diverse format with
you don't say.
With more unique play patterns. Just like, no, we're gonna just make the good decks better.
I mean, if we get to your rant, we can talk about this a little bit, but I was kind of excited because I saw at one point today there was a update about reinvigorating standard from Huey.
Oh, another one?
Yep, so I read it.
Okay. Not great?
Basically said nothing.
Sick.
Yep. Our next plan is here, and then did not talk about the plan.
Oh, where's it at? I want pre-show rants. Where are pre-show rants? Oh, pre-show ramblings. There we go. Yeah, no, it just, like, I was playing standard, and like I just was to the point where I was like, I hadn't played in a while, and I was like playing over the weekend.
Yeah.
I was just like, I woke up Sunday, and I was like, God, I'm like dreading playing Magic. Like, I'm just not gonna do this. Like, it just is like, It's like I know like what 3 decks I'm gonna play against. None of them are gonna be particularly enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, I resolved a Shieldred. Do you have an answer in the next 2 turns? Oh, you're dead.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, thanks. Oh, I did have an answer, but you're an Esper deck, so you had to make disappear. So I could not resolve my. And also, like, we went from not having any 2-mana black removal to it's all we have.
Hmm.
And it's like, you just like, all the decks just end up being the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be black-white. Okay, why? Well, there's a white card I like, but then I'm going to play all these black cards. Okay, cool. I'm going to be blue-black. Why? I like Make Disappear and Kaito. Okay. I'm going to be Esper. Why? Rafine? Okay. He's like, what about the other cards? Oh, the other 45 cards? The same.
Yeah.
The same. Like, all the same. Don't worry about it. Don't. It's like, yeah. It's like, I have 2 mana up. You know what's in my hand. We both do. And it's like, all right, cool. Well, like, what if I don't play my spell? Well, I have 4 other things I could cast for that 2 mana as well.
Yeah. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So there's no way for me to punish you for holding open mana? Absolutely not.
Nope.
And it's like, why have we designed sets like this? I don't know. It's probably just because, like, I like playing decks where, like, well, Modern Magic is kind of like you have to tap out and use your mana every turn or you lose.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I'm going to tap out at sorcery speed like a sucker.
Basically.
And it's like, or I'm going to attack into your 4 open mana. It's like the settle the metal, the wreckage problem.
Yeah.
Attack you. Oh, get 8 for 1. Amazing.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're going to kill my thing, and then you're going to plus your Wandering Emperor, and then you're going to minus it. I also had someone attack into me, and I blocked. They flashed in their Wandering Emperor and used it as a combat trick.
Excellent.
To give their thing first
Pump
strike.
their
I was
thing.
like, well, I didn't play around with that. I was just happy to like trade and stay alive, and they were like, no. It's a 4/3 first striker. Now your 2/2 dies. Amazing. Sick. I'm glad we put Flash on a Planeswalker. That seemed like a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We have the thing up. All right. Hello, and welcome to episode 245 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm James.
And hopefully after reinstalling everything and updating stuff and whatnot, we'll have a podcast that everyone involved in can hear.
Yeah, hopefully. Pre-show went pretty well, so I have high hopes.
Good.
Especially since when I got home from work today, my internet was spotty and my power started flickering. So I'm glad to have made it this far.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Limited. We've both
Played a little bit.
Due to life and due to job and illness, have not played as much Limited as we
Well, to be fair, part of that's Wizards' problem. Like, I tried to play some Limited this week, but it seemed like every time I had a free chance to play Limited, like, Wizards made some tweet that's like, hey, guess what? Draft is still broken. I don't even know what the problem was, but...
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean still broken? I didn't even know it was broken at all. What do you mean still?
Yeah.
Like, this thing's a cash cow.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to fire up a draft to get, like, halfway through it right after you said that there's a problem with it and then be denied my refund because you warned me there was a problem with it.
Exactly. Now, a couple weeks ago, this was in the Discord, I saw this. I think Brad posted it about, they were like, why don't you rebalance cards more? And like the 3 guys from the arena team basically were like, because we're the only guys on the arena team?
Yeah.
They were like, the team that makes new cards is also the team that rebalances?
Yeah.
And it's like, how? How are they the same people? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Because
Arena
Chad's
just
sucking all the beans out. No beans left for employees when Chad's sucking them all up.
Sir, we're having problems with the server. Bro, here's some duct tape. Figure it out.
Put a fan on it.
Bro, here's a box fan and some duct tape.
Yeah.
I fixed your circulation problem.
Make it work.
Server
runs better on Red Bull, right?
Bro, it'll give it wings. It'll cool itself down. I just had this view of like a box fan and like a big chunk of ice, just a giant swamp cooler in like the Arena server room. And they're just like, oh, why is it so damp?
Arena server room, it's like a closet, man. There's only
probably
one rack in there.
Just one rack and a PS4 that they have to it for some extra juice. But we're gonna
it's not even a PS4. It's like a PSP.
PSP.
That's what they have. That's the only thing they can use to enter new cards to Arena. That's why it takes so long. Everything. There's no keyboard. It's got to go through the PSP.
You just gotta D-pad it over and find the letters. You're just like, why is this card name so long? Why is there punctuation in this? Why is every uncommon a legend and I have to find the comma? I have to go to a whole other screen. Yeah. Why? So, yeah. We're gonna talk a little bit about limited.
Yeah.
I have absorbed some other limited content.
Okay.
So, I may just pass on some knowledge from those folks.
Well, I mean, I have some thoughts. I have absorbed 0 limited content, so my thoughts are basically only my own. We'll see if they agree with anybody else's.
And if you want to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, X, gonna give it to you, or put like a fish tank in your car, or email the first social media.
That's right.
You can find all those links in the description below.
Yeah, hit us up. Let us know what you think about the show, about our thoughts on limited. If you got any show ideas or questions you have or anything, really hit us up. We're always eager to speak with you.
Yes, please.
Yeah. If you're looking to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. The first is with our TCG Player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Follow that link on over to TCG Player, and anything you purchase will help to support the show. We'll get a percentage of your final purchase price. Doesn't cost you guys anything extra. Helps keep the lights on over here. We would really appreciate that. The second way is our Patreon, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Sign up for Patreon. Everybody knows how Patreon works. If you like what we do and you want to support us, you can chip a couple bucks in, however much you see fit. Whatever kind of enjoyment you get out of us. You get to assign a dollar amount too, and then pledge it.
Yes.
Patrons get access to our show notes. They also get access to about another hour-ish of content out of us in our pre-show. And you get put on my mailing list for when I have swag to send out. I have not emailed it out yet, but I did get the next round of give-backs together and in envelopes. So hopefully I will find a moment this week to actually get them in the mailbox. But if the rest of this week is like today, that may not happen either.
Understandable.
Yep. You also, I saw, did some draft videos, right? You got a couple done?
I have 3 up, and I'll put up a 4th. Just less time than usual.
Yeah.
And I was all gung-ho to do drafts, and then got COVID.
Yeah.
And just have not had a chance to.
Yeah.
I've got to start, maybe drafting on the old iPad, just because, I don't know. But then I feel bad because I feel like since I spent money, I should focus.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be like, oh, Gavin's crying. I guess I have to, take the L on this. No. Baby, stop crying. So it's I should just, I feel like I need to be upstairs and focus.
Suck it up, kid.
Yeah, it's I spent $6 on this child. I don't care if there's a bookcase on you. Told you not to climb it. So
Your fault for not anchoring it to the wall.
hey, all our bookcases are anchored. Thank you very much.
I figured they were.
Oh yeah. He could not walk, and they had to be anchored. Oh
Yeah.
yes, they're up. They're up there, good,
Yeah.
good and strong. But yeah. All right. So we have done a handful of Wilds of Eldraine drafts.
Yeah, I think I'm about
It's also
5 deep.
I am 4 in. So what have your thoughts been?
Play blue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is LSV's takeaway.
Oh, okay. Well,
Is
I
he?
guess I'm in good company then.
Yes, his favorite deck that he was talking about was like 5-color blue,
Okay. I don't
where
think
you're a bait,
well, I think maybe once or twice I did like 4-color blue.
where you're like base blue, and then you have like uh prismatic not prismatic omen, gosh,
Prophetic Prism.
prophetic prism. There we go.
Yeah.
And like 1 or 2 other ways to fix your mana to like play various like off-color adventures.
Mhm.
Or you're like, blue in a light other color, but then you have like all these like off-color powerful adventures, and you just like play them off of your prisms and then throw your prisms away later to bargain.
Yeah.
I apparently keep trying to draft the open deck, and then apparently just keep putting myself in the archetypes that people say don't work. So that's
Wonderful.
I've done 4 drafts. I have drafted green every single time.
Oh, so green has been one of my splash colors for blue a couple times. But I don't think I've drafted a base green deck ever.
I drafted Jund Ramp, and then green black with a white splash, like mid-rangey. That video's title is just going to be called Rock Stuff.
Rock Stuff.
Rock Stuff. And then I drafted green white auras twice, which is apparently one of the archetypes that doesn't work.
Oh, wonderful.
The takeaway is like if I think they said on limited resources, if the card says enchantment on it, it doesn't work.
Okay.
Like if the rules text says like if an enchantment does something,
yeah,
card does not work, other than the guy that like draws you a card.
That's kind of crazy because there's like a lot of help for enchantment synergies.
Yeah, they're just like the cards don't work.
Hmm.
I'm just like sick, and I just looked over and I was like, oh, that's literally basically I'm only drafting those decks.
Yeah.
Because like you get to a point and you're just like, wow, like all these cards are super open.
Yeah.
Like I get any green card that I want. Now, last draft I got a Groff triplets.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was like green and like trying to figure out my second. I thought I was green and trying to figure out my second color. And then I opened a Groff triplets. I was like, well, apparently it's a good idea I was green.
Yeah.
And I did get to do something pretty awesome.
What's that?
I was splashing the white guy with the green the 2/2 that for 3 mana that draws a card when it ATBs and has the adventure to put a permanent on top.
Yeah.
And my opponent was drawing all these cards and had this board but wouldn't attack into my Groff triplets.
Yeah.
And eventually they did. And I killed my real Groff triplets, put it on top of my deck, played it again.
Nice.
And then I attacked with a 13/13 Groff triplets, and my opponent threw 4 creatures in front of it and killed it.
Oh no!
So I ended up with 3 16/16 Groff triplets.
Wow.
And I was just like, why would you like throw away your entire board and block there?
Yeah.
Like you just gave me 48 power. Like, what are you doing? Like, I was like, okay, like we get to win this one. Yeah, so apparently like white green and white blue from everyone. So I listened to LR, and then I listened to Arena deck list, and they were like randomly talking about limited,
Mhm.
and they both Jerry and then the LR guys were like, yeah, the like white green and white blue don't work.
I think white blue is a fine color combination. I don't know, like the tapping theme I don't think works. I think blue's strong enough to the point where you can basically do whatever you want as long as you're base blue.
Fair, but yeah, like if you are, I am doing what the white blue deck tells me to do, like that doesn't work.
No.
Right? Like you just don't seem to have enough oomph. Like I've drawn all these cards, I've done all this stuff, but now like what?
And like I don't mean to, come off as I know everything about the format. I've got I think 1/6 win draft, and like all the rest of them have been like 4 or 5 wins. So I'm not like killing it or anything. But yeah, it definitely seems like the drafts where I have like a base blue deck are kind of easy mode, and it's all tempo. Like there are so many good tempo cards in this set.
There's like Misleading Motes, which bounces for 2 mana.
Well, that one tucks, right? It puts it on the top or bottom of the library, so it's better than bounce.
And then there's the one that's like, I forget what it's like, costs 2 less if something happens.
Yeah, Jotun's something or other.
Yeah.
Or Johan's Stopgap is the 4 mana one that lets you draw a card and bargain, and it's 2 mana cheaper.
Yeah.
And was it Balluna's? Where is it? I brought it. Balluna's Gatekeeper.
The 7 mana thing that like bounces.
Yeah, it's a 6 mana 6/5 that bounces something CMC 3 or less. There's just so much like good tempo to do that you just bounce stuff. Like you can very easily, if blue is even remotely open, end up with like between 4 and 6 bounce spells that cost 2 mana. And when you combine that with like any amount of card draw, you just get to do whatever you want, because you completely negate the first few turns of the game, and then like you're casting your 6/5s while holding 2 mana up for a spell stutter or whatever. Or what was the other one? The counter spell that costs 1 less if you bargain it. Ice Out.
Ice Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have not played blue. Perhaps that is my problem.
Yeah. And it seems like the bonus sheet cards are kind of skewed towards blue too. Like I haven't really been blown out by the bonus sheet cards like we were in Brothers War.
Yes. They are less good.
Yeah. But the blue ones, the ones that are like uncommon, are kind of bonkers in this limited set.
What are they?
Spreading Seas and Hatching Plans.
Oh, Hatching Plans. Yeah. I didn't know if Hatching Plans was an uncommon.
Yeah. Because Hatching Plans just makes like every bargain spell you have draw 3. And by bargaining your spells, like they all cost less. So you're getting to play them like as a tempo play while also drawing 3 cards. It's just kind of nuts. And then if you're not playing like the blue decks that are trying to do whatever they want, like that deck kind of gobbles up all of the mana fixing, which makes it tough for the other decks to exist, which makes Spreading Seas like kind of insane.
Yeah, because you can just Stone Rain them.
Yeah, you just Stone Rain them. And you get to draw a card, and then when they get around to fixing their mana, you just bargain the Spreading Seas away and draw another card. So it's blue's been kind of nuts.
And there's also the 3 mana fairy that makes all instants and sorceries cost 1 less.
Yeah, I haven't.
I had an opponent play that, and then play the blue red. What's it called? The blue red saga that lets you copy a thing.
Okay.
And then they bargained away the saga before they had to sack the token. And they were just playing like 4 mana removal spells for like 2 mana.
That seems pretty good.
and then beating me down for 4 in the air, and I lost rather quickly, and I was like, not a whole lot I can do here.
Yeah.
I know that's probably like an outlier. Like that card's probably not great.
Yeah.
But
I haven't played much with that one. I did have one. I had one draft that sounded like kind of what LSV was describing, where you just have like all of the fixing and you're just playing base blue and like splashing every other color. And that deck, I ran a Chancellor of Tales and the one that doubles up adventures.
Yeah.
And that was kind of nuts because all of a sudden your 2-mana Balluna's Gatekeeper like nukes 2 things from their board and then is a 6/5.
Yeah, and you're just like, and what are you going to do?
Yeah. Like I just demolished any sort of board presence you had and then played a 6/5.
Yeah, I have not played blue. Maybe that is the secret. Like, I have enjoyed most of the games I have played. But like I haven't, like, I have a 55% win rate, like nothing like amazing, and I am like in the dregs of I'm like in like gold or something because I hadn't played for all of LR, or so it's like
I also had a couple drafts that were red black. Like I think my first draft was red black because that's an archetype that traditionally I'm pretty happy playing and pretty good with. And like that deck felt fine also, but I find myself kind of pushing blue every time I start one after that.
Yeah. There's been a lot of talk about how the format is aggressive because of red white and red black.
Yeah.
Like just the number of like rats you have laying around and stuff. Like I like lost to, like, it took a while, but I lost to a Totentot song.
Yeah.
Because like you have all these rats and then they play like, it's like a common or something that like, oh, when your rats get blocked, they get +2/+0.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I can't block all these rats. And it's like, oh, okay, well now I have this fling that's an adventure that like gives me a creature later.
Yeah.
Or like I have a 3-drop that gives me 2 rats that then becomes a 2/1 for a striker for 2. And it's like, there's just like all this ways to get wide.
Yeah.
And just kind of like pump. And then there's the, oh gosh, what is he? It's like a 3-drop that gives your creatures like haste and +1/+0. But then as a 5-drop adventure that makes 2 knights.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, you have like a couple rats, like bonk, take 7, and you're like, oh, I'm dead now.
I think the best card that I had out of I mean, I had some good cards in the rat deck, but I think the card that surprised me most out of the rat deck was the Trumpet Blast. Because it lets you trade basically your entire board, like +2/+0 all your rats, and like trade off with all their stuff. And then every time a creature dies, you get a rat. So like all your rats replace themselves afterwards.
Oh yeah.
For 3 mana, that's kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, the one that if it dies, yeah. I don't know.
Gnawing Crescendo.
Non-crescendo. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been a lot of, wow, this format is aggressive recently. I think we may have talked about this before, but I think it's like the fire design of like pumping more and more power into 1 and 2 drops.
Yeah.
Like you get a lot of like the same kind of thing where you're just like, oh, like this is another aggressive format. And it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
I'm trying to look up the red guy. Oh, there he is. Imodane's Recruiter.
Yeah.
When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste. And then for 5 mana, you get 2 knight tokens with Vigilante.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's also funny, like, how many of the blue adventures are just bounce spells?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like I think that's kind of a dangerous place to put tempo too, because like traditionally tempo decks had to give up a resource to gain their tempo. And when all of your cards just replace themselves while giving you tempo, it's kind of, I mean, it's a good place to be if you're playing the tempo deck, but it's kind of a scary place to be when you're trying to beat that.
I was thinking about, like, think of how good Blink of an Eye is when you get to kick it, and you could draw anything,
right?
Even a boat,
right.
or a land, right? Yeah. But now, like, your Balluna's Gatekeeper that you talked about, right? It's like, it is, it's a sorcery, but still, like, kind of Blink of an Eye that's drawing you a 6/5.
And costs 2 less.
Yeah. And then you have, what's the other one? There was another adventure that was just like bounce a nerd. Well, there's
the Horn Whale.
Lock Whale.
Yeah.
And then the oh gosh, the snake guy.
Oh, the snake guy.
The Steam Clean is the name of the adventure.
Oh yeah, the rare.
The rare, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lock Whale is a rare as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. There's also kind of a sneaky one in the Vantress Transmuter.
I am looking that one up.
It's a 4-mana 3/4 vanilla, but it has an adventure for 2 mana. Tap a creature and put a curse roll token on it. Like, I mean, in limited, that's 2 mana, remove a blocker for a turn, and turn it into a 1/1.
Yeah, Scalding Viper is the rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just funny that they have so many that they just kind of settled on, hey, we're just going to just put a bunch of these adventures be bounce spells.
Yeah.
I guess it's better than them being removal spells, but not by much.
Yeah, I mean, they basically, like, if your tempo deck is built correctly, that might as well be removal spells. Because...
yeah, if you're putting pressure on people.
Well, not just that, but you, like, even if you're not putting pressure on them, you get to a point where you're like, bounce your thing, make your spend your mana again on it, spell stutter it on the way back down, or ice it out on the way back down. And, like, the cumulative effect of that might as well be a removal spell. You're kind of winning, like, by having so much bounce in your deck, you're kind of winning the same way mono red does, where, like, by the time you got a Balluna's Gatekeeper and, like, 2 other 3-drops in play, they're dead and sitting on a handful of 6 cards because you kept putting their nerds back in their hand.
Yeah. Never thought I'd see the day that we're like, Carson's like, get in with the conditional counter spell, and then get in with the cancel.
Yeah.
Oh, got it with the cancel.
No, like, typically that's not my
Carson's
jam.
Just like, oh, the cancel, man. Oh man, I see that cancel. I'm like, it's open, baby. Let's go.
Well, so the best part of that cancel is that you get to sack your hatching plans to it.
Yes.
Like, it being 3 mana is not a downside. It's like, it's a benefit. Like, oh yeah, I would love to sack my hatching plans to counter your spell for 2 mana, please.
Yeah.
And like I found that kind of the best color, like I had one deck that was kind of base green blue that used some green, like, for ramp and color fixing, and I splashed a couple random cards in there. And that deck I think was fine. But I think, like, red blue is actually pretty strong.
I got annihilated by a red blue deck. Like, I had a fight spell in my hand, and I opened my draft on the end.
Yeah.
Fine, you take it, right? And so, like, I was green black, and I had like 2 fight spells in my hand, and they had like an instant speed removal spell and a bounce spell.
Yeah.
And I could just never use my fight spells.
Yeah.
And like every time I played something, it just seemed like they had drawn like another removal spell that I didn't know about, and they were just like, "I'll use that one." And it's like, I can never use this stupid fight spell to get like pressure off of me.
I held it over your head the whole game.
8 for 1. Yeah, it's just like
So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's like, that's definitely not my typical, like, the deck I gravitate towards, but
I feel like the consensus is that black might be the best color. At least that's what I've heard. But LSV does like really like the blue decks, but they did like I think it was maybe I mixed no, it might be blue. I might have mixed up my Lord of the Rings draft. Because they also talked about Lord of the Rings, so I might have got them
Gotcha.
mixed up.
Yeah, no, I really like the blue decks.
Okay. Okay, there is a oh gosh, I wish I can find it. There was a tweet, if I can find it, from MTG Data Science.
Okay.
There it is. Where they were looking at the if you can find it, they were looking at the win rate by color
Mm-hmm.
in the formats, and like this format is apparently not very color balanced and like skews, maybe it skews blue. Here it is. So win rate rank within a color. Yeah, blue, red, black, and green all have a higher win rate for the commons and the uncommons than blue.
Oh wow. Okay.
So basically, what it was is it's a graph of I'll send it to you. It's a graph of games in hand win rate.
Mm-hmm.
So like card number 1 is the best card of that color.
Okay.
Its win rate, and then it's card 2, card 3, card 4. So like you at no point is there a red or a black card that has a win rate at the same point that is lower than a blue card.
Wow. Yeah, by a lot.
Yeah. So like the best 2 colors are probably red and black, though it's relatively early in the format, and like if the deck you're talking about, and again like LSV is a huge fan of like the base blue interactive decks. Like maybe that changes, but right now it's like a Jund format. But like I've been going green paired with like a little bit of black or white.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be like red green or like strong black green. But like, maybe your particular version of the blue deck is the deck that is like good.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just a fluke. Who knows? Like I said, I mean, I've only done a handful of drafts. I think 5 drafts is not enough to draw any concrete data out of. That's just, kind of how it felt to me.
White just is blood. It doesn't need to be. We don't just have to be like, oh, it's here's for comparison, here is the Lord of the Rings one.
Oh
wow. It's black, blue, and red, and then like blue kind of falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
But like look at like red. It's like, hey, these are all good, and then like the 11th card just falls off a cliff, is like off scale.
Off the graph.
Like can't possibly play it.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was pretty
this
funny.
is kind of interesting data though, because like according to these graphs, if blue is a good deck, its power would be in the rares because that's not represented here. But I actually think it's the opposite. Like I don't need, like I think all of the power is in the tempo cards, which are the commons and uncommons.
And it might be that you don't have that like you're building your blue decks differently than other people.
Maybe.
Right? So like if you're building your blue deck more as like a tempo deck,
yeah,
where other people might be making it more control-y.
Yeah, that could be. Well, I mean,
then
that would make sense, though. If people are trying to build it control-y, they're getting run over by rats.
Which, and that could be it.
Yeah, that might be the, like what we're seeing in this data, because that would give red and black, a higher win rate, but also push blue down because they're building it as control.
Yeah, so like maybe it is that you're like the like bounce spell counter, the thing that matters, play a big idiot, and the board is relatively clear, right? Might be the way to do it as compared to, the like I really like a blue, like a 4-color blue deck.
Yeah.
Right? Where you're more like I'm streamlined, like because like there was a lot of Ballunas. My last draft, I felt like I could have got like Ballunas, whatever guard or whatever thing.
Yeah, gatekeeper.
Kind of gatekeeper. Like I feel like there were some that were pretty late.
Oh, I've taken them super late. I've had as many as 5 in a deck.
Whew.
Because people just kept giving them to me, and I just kept taking them.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
You know how disheartening it is to get your first 3, like the first 3 spells you play, put back in your hand,
bounced,
and then you have to stare at the bottom of the screen. Your opponent has 3 Ballunas gatekeepers on adventure that are just waiting to come down and ruin your day.
Yeah, it's just like, I do not like.
I have done nothing so far, and I know they're going to start casting 6/5s.
I have nothing on the board. I know it is bad. Oh, so did I send you the last one here? This is... Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So the 3 sets of graphs. So if you guys go to Magic Data Science, it was a tweet from September 19th. And so they have this graph with like the win rate of every common. So like the top 16 or 20 commons, the top like 15 uncommons. And there's a gray bar. And that is like the typical spread.
Right.
So they're saying that like woe is kind of typical. Right? It looks kind of normal. Where it's like what you would expect. Then you have Lord of the Rings.
Pretty much colored inside the bounds.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings, if you look at it, red and black are like well above the kind of the typical range. And then the uncommons, red and black, are like almost off scale.
Yeah.
And then you have Dominaria, where all the colors are like right on top of each other.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's a really balanced format. Like Lord of the Rings wasn't balanced. Woe is kind of what you would expect. So, but yeah, like if everyone thinks the format is aggressive and you have a way to like blunt that aggression through bounce or through like cheap removal, but I think that the cheap removal probably gets snapped up earlier, and like the bounce probably hangs around later and kind of can do a similar thing.
Yeah.
Right? Then like you can blunt that aggression, and then like playing 6/5s or even like 3/4s. Right? Against like a bunch of rats, or like the 1 rat, or like the 2/1 they have left over.
Right.
Is playing like, here's a 3/4. Good luck. And it's like, oh, I've got 2 2/1s.
Yeah.
Well, I will take 2 damage because I will eat 1, and then he will not attack with the next one.
Yeah.
This sounds good to me.
I mean, I guess if nobody else is playing this tempo version of this deck, this might be a conclusion that doesn't matter, but that may be the reason why green-white isn't that great. Because if you're building your deck based on enchantments, like you can't ever get set up. Like if the removal's good and then like your cards just get bounced every turn, like you can't ever get your payoffs in play to start doing the enchantment thing. Or your thing gets bounced and then you got nothing to put enchantments on.
Or I was going to say, if like green-white feels like it's the like kind of the grindy deck.
Yeah.
Where you've got like the 3/1 uncommon that you can like pay to and get it back from the graveyard when an enchantment comes in play, and like the 3 mana 2/3 uncommon that when an enchantment comes into play you draw a card. And like all of this stuff is like you need something out. You then need to put an enchantment on something, and then a thing happens and it might cost you mana or it might not.
Yeah.
If your opponent just goes, the classic James 1-2-3 trumpet blast, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got like a stupid like 2-3 that might have put a roll on your 2-drop.
Yeah.
And they're like 12 you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 12 me, I guess, is a thing that's allowed to happen.
I don't know if it's
Right?
allowed
And
to
you're
happen,
just
but
like,
it did.
yeah. But like, so you're at the situation where you're like getting ready to set up,
Yeah.
and now you're like under this pressure of like, oh man, like one removal spell and I'm dead.
Right.
Right. If they get rid of one blocker, they kill me next turn or whatever. So like, you just don't have the ability to like get your feet under you.
Mm-hmm.
And like the celebration deck, like some of the rares for that deck, like the stupid mouse.
Yeah.
Like I've lost to that mouse in Constructed. Where they played the mouse on 2, and then they played a colorless 1-drop as their second spell.
Ah.
And I'm like, what the no. So yeah, like right now it looks like red and green is where it's at, and that's, fine, whatevs. But like, the go wide rat deck. And like you said, there's a trumpet blast, there's like a thing that gives everything haste.
Yeah.
There's Toten Tots' song that is just like silly. Like that's what they cast it on like turn 4 or 5 and got like 3 or 4 rats. And they were just able to use that material to like kill me over the course of the next like 4 turns.
Yeah.
Like I was still, those rats are the rats that killed me at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Because by the time I worked through them, I had like stabilized, and they were like, oh, you're low enough now that I can just fling this thing at you and you die.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I would prefer you not do that.
I bet you would. Sometimes you just gotta fling a thing.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's all I got for limited. Basically, in my experience, those tempo decks have been the best.
I have not heard of those. Now I'm interested to try to draft one, especially if it is like good and not being drafted.
Well, I don't think any other decks want any of the cards. So you can start your draft off, somewhere else and then just kind of fall into it. Like I've had Balluna's Gatekeeper's Wheel, and like that's the best card in the deck. Like I just want all of the Gatekeepers that I can get. And like I said, nobody else wants the Hatching Plans or the Spreading Seas, and they're kind of what makes the deck tick. They're what lets you have the 2-mana bounce spell draw a card or the 2-mana counter spell.
If you don't have those, does it still work?
That's a great question. I don't think I've had decks without Spreading Seas. I don't think I've had a blue deck without a Hatching Plans. Like there's always been one.
I've not seen one that I can think of. But like you can get like part of Spreading Seas or part of Hatching Plans from like a Prophetic Prism.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It just enters, draws you a card, and then you throw it away.
Yeah.
It's not draw 3 cards, but those cards aren't at least on the layaway plan.
Yeah. I mean, I don't use any kind of draft tracker to see like how many copies of cards I've drafted or whatever, but I bet you I've drafted more than one play set, probably approaching 2 play sets of Hatching Plans.
Oh wow, okay.
And like I'm only like maybe 6 drafts, but probably only 5 into the format.
Okay, maybe I need to keep my eyes open more, because I don't feel like I've seen that card. But again, I did 3 drafts 2 weeks ago, and then
well, I mean, also like if you're drafting green white, you're putting somebody else into blue.
This is fair.
So you might not see them. Whereas if you're taking blue cards, you're taking blue cards away from somebody else. You're putting them in a different color.
More.
Yeah.
Another
thing, the divination is instant speed.
Yes.
Like, why would they do that to a format that it's almost like they planted the tempo deck.
Yeah. Well, this leads into some standard thoughts I had,
Okay.
which is kind of the creep of power in limited, which admittedly I think for the most part has made limited better.
Mm-hmm.
We still definitely have some games of limited that come down to it's, whatever. It's 2023
Mm-hmm.
and they resolved a rare and I just lost to it in 3 turns and it's a 3-mana rare and I'm dead now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that was not an enjoyable experience. But like they keep like pushing tempo. Think about Streets of New Capenna draft. Like you could only draft blue, white, or Bant.
Yeah.
Because anything, it just bounced all of your stuff or tapped it and didn't matter what you did.
Yeah.
But you keep getting like all these pushed lower rarity cards, and we start to see a lot of the same things
Mm-hmm.
because they're like, we want this in limited, or you start to see instant speed divinations,
Right.
which it removes a lot of the tension from the game.
Mm-hmm.
And like in constructed kind of pushes things to, I kind of think to some degree of being homogeneous.
Yeah.
Where it used to be if you were going to hold up a counterspell, you were paying a cost.
Right.
Right. If your opponent had like played something, they could just attack and like play a land and like not let you use your mana.
Mm-hmm. Or if
Right,
they had
because
some other way to use their mana.
Yeah. Because your divination was sorcery speed.
Right.
Or, you're playing a tempo deck, but you had to, God forbid, use your mana on your turn to put a threat into play.
Yeah.
And like think about there was the blue-green Night Pack Ambusher, Frilled Mystic, like
Yep.
everything has flash. So now I just say draw go. And if I have a creature, draw attack go.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna do everything on your turn. And like that then removes like that natural tension of like I need to play a threat because eventually I'm going to run out of counter spells.
Yeah.
But if I play a threat, they could stick something and I'm blue green.
Yeah.
I can't answer it. Right? And so like we've got fairies and it just seems like they put like make everything instant speed.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just give everything flash.
Yeah.
And you keep getting this very similar kind of like mush of cards where it's like, well, I have to play the instant speed thing and then I have to play the flash card because then I never don't use my mana.
Right.
Like it kind of turns everything is like blue-black rogues.
Basically.
Right? And I went and looked because I've made the mistake of playing standard in a way that requires me to resolve Invasion of Allura. Right? I must tap 5 mana at sorcery speed like a doofus.
Yeah.
And then play a spell. And I was thinking as I was like staring at my opponent who always had blue in 1 up.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how long have I been playing around Quench?
Since
or
Quench.
something like Quench. And so I went back and looked. I wish Scryfall would put these in like order of release.
Yeah.
But so Quench was guilds or allegiances, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was 4 years ago? 5. That's right when the podcast started.
Yeah. We're almost 5, yeah.
Yeah. Allegiances is, almost 5 years. So we had Quench. Then we had not as good Quench, but we had, where is it at? Jurari Disruption.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How many 2 and 3 drops just like got eaten to what would have been their land drop.
Right.
Like infinite, right?
Yep.
And then we went from that to, I think they were in the same standard, right? Because uh, Zendikar Rising went into streets, right?
It was Zendikar, Kaldheim, Strixhaven,
Okay.
AFR,
So,
Innistrad streets.
oh God, was it Innistrad then streets?
No, it was Innistrad, then Kamigawa, then streets.
Gosh, it all runs together. So maybe Disruption had been out of the format, or maybe they were in this format at the same time.
Yeah.
Disruption and then Make disappear.
They might have been.
Right. And then we've had Make disappear. And then we had Bring the Ending, which is Quench with Poison upside.
Yep.
Or Poison token upside. And then they were like, here, take Spell Stutter.
Yep.
Which, again, I stand behind my give a Spell Stutter straight, you cowards. But we've had the same card.
Yeah.
The same exact card for like 4 years.
Yeah. I don't know that this is anything new though. Because think back to like before we started doing the show when it was just like our team or whatever, and we were all super hyped for spoiler season, and like the group message was blowing up all the time. Like I remember being like, oh, I can't wait until the shock for this set is released because I want to know what the shock for this set does, or the fill in the blank, whatever the duress is, or like whatever the edict spell is. You know what I mean? Like there's always.
I agree, but like the duress for the set would be like you get one that was 2 mana and had weird upside or downside, or then like the next one would be able to get a different card type, right? If they've done some that are like reject, where it's like creature or planeswalker for some amount, or revolutionary or above, which is target non-artifact spell unless they pay 2.
Yeah.
Right? But they've just printed like the same like unconditional like almost mana leak.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. And it's really at odds with like how like they design standard cards, because like standard's all about tap all of my mana every turn, play a thing. Right? And like how do you play around pay 2 extra?
You don't,
right? You just are like, I gotta run this out.
Yeah.
And like your opponent, like, so you just get this similar play pattern of like, well, I'm gonna tap 3 mana and we're gonna hope it resolves. And it's like, oh, it resolved, sick. And they're like, okay, flash in a thing. And then you're on the tempo game.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you just get a lot of like, so I know it's the counter spell, and like, again, I'm like the tap out, like play my thing guy, and I'd like it to resolve. But like, it just feels like we're getting like the same kind of cards. Now, some of them, like, there is like a limited formula. Like, how many 6 to 7, maybe 8 mana big green idiot at common enters, gains you 3 life are there?
Right.
Like
infinite.
Yeah. Honey Mammoth to whatever this guy is.
Yeah.
Hamlet Glutton, who sometimes is a 5 mana 6/6, gain you 3 life. Right. It's one thing when like those cards serve a purpose in limited. Right? And like, it is, kind of funny that you just see them over and over again. But when like I can count on one. I did like 30 Phyrexia All Be One drafts. I probably saw Bring the Ending cast like 4 times.
Yeah.
Right? But like that card is just, or that version of that card doesn't do a whole lot in limited. But when games get condensed into like I've got to go 2, 3, 4, right? It's just counterspell.
Yeah.
And if you don't have to counterspell, it's like, well, we've given you like this out, right? It would be fine if like we didn't have like blue green for like a year, 18 months, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna not have that for a little bit. Rogues. Like a
Well,
year
I mean, I
later.
think that's at odds with what they're trying to do, though.
Mhm.
And this kind
What do
of
you mean?
goes back to what you said about like the format being homogenous.
Mhm.
I think when you make standard bigger, sure you're opening up possibilities at the fringes, but you're also consolidating power in the middle. So I think it does make it more homogenous. And also, like, I think you run into this problem where, like, if the goal is to try and, broaden the format, you're not going to try and rotate out blue green flash every standard, because you want to make sure people are playing standard. So people that like playing blue green flash, you want to make sure they have a blue green flash deck to play.
But like the issue there becomes like if every time you like fire up a arena,
Mm-hmm.
like you know you're gonna play against one of like 3 decks.
Yeah.
Right? Like at some point that becomes a less desirable experience.
Well, I think this discussion goes deeper than we're going to take it today, because I think that's part of the problem with standard in general, is that it doesn't have a home anymore. Like, standard used to be the format that was always fresh, and that's why I traditionally enjoyed it, and why I was always the standard guy, because it was always changing, and I loved keeping on top of the changes. And I didn't necessarily care that I had to throw my deck out once a year or whatever and build something else. I was always on the hunt for what the next deck was going to be. Like, I wasn't even ever the guy that showed up with the best deck, because I always wanted to have the next best deck, the deck that beat the best deck. And I don't think that that's a thing that players want anymore. Like, the feedback that Huey has gotten and ran with to try and cultivate whatever this new standard revitalization thing that he's going for is that people don't want to throw their decks out once a year. That's why they're going to a 3-year rotation.
Yeah, like I understand that, but I feel like the reason people don't want to throw their decks out is $300 for a standard deck 6 years ago, 7 years ago when you were the standard guy.
Yeah.
Feels different than $300 for a standard deck now.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like, I feel like people are a lot more pinched on money. And so if you had to throw away $300 on your standard deck to get the next one.
I mean, I also don't think that like standard decks are $300 anymore. And a lot of the decks I used to play weren't even $300.
Yeah, but like, but my point being, like, I think that it's more of a. I think if Magic were free, and you asked people, do you want to get, or it was like a living card game where you could just like go buy like
the new set,
Wild Citadel Drain new set, and spend $80 and get the new set, right? That I think people would be more like, I would rather see faster rotation, more turnover, than I want stuff to be around for 3 years.
Yeah.
Because what happens is right, like it's going to take a lot for Shieldred to not be the best card in standard.
I mean, Shieldred's going to be the best card in standard till it rotates.
Yes.
I don't think they can print something that's better than it.
No, I hope they don't, because then that breaks every other format as well, right? So now you're locked into playing black because you've got to play the best card in the format. Kind of like when Avacyn was the best card in the format. It's like, how am I playing Avacyn in my deck?
Right.
Right. So then you get locked into like playing the same kind of game. Right. Even the blue black fairies tempo deck, right? Where they're like, we never want to tap out. Oh, they're tapping 4 mana to play a Shieldred because they're like, as long as I get to untap, I win the game.
Right.
Right. And so you get to these situations where the, you know, well, we need to put a good black removal spell in this limited format. Right? Okay. Well, then that's paired with the good black removal spell at uncommon that we put in 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know if they can like realistically design sets across 3 years where you're not starting to see a lot of like repeat effects and getting like a lot of consistency.
Well, I think that's the plan, though.
Decks.
I don't know if that's like they stumbled into it or if that's by design.
With the consistency of effects, or that they're going to try to like not have like, you know, like 3 or 4 like really good like black removal spells. Because like on one hand, you've said, hey, we went limited to be more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that means we're putting more power in like 2, 3, and 4 mana commons.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the only way that works is then for your limited format to be at all playable is now you've got to make 1 and 2 and 3 mana really good removal spells.
Right.
Because could you imagine having, oh, what was it? Rite of the Serpent? It was like 4 black sorcery speed, kill a creature and get a snake.
Yeah.
In any of the formats we have played in the last 2 years.
Right.
Like that card is just not workable.
Right.
But that was the removal we got for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Was just like, oh, what is the 5 mana black common removal spell? Right? And like you would, and then like, ooh, the uncommon one is 3 mana.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The uncommon one is murder.
Yeah, you get a murder. Right? But you have this thing where like they have to like print these similar effects where, you know,
right,
counterspell with set mechanic, shock with set mechanic, right? And then you get to a point where your mono red deck is the mono red deck at the end of 3 years, and it's got 3 of shock with various set mechanic.
Yeah, and also 16 playable 1-drops with haste, and
yeah, where you used to have 1 shock with set mechanic,
right?
And then they'd be like, here's only hits creatures for a mana, and then hits creature or planeswalker for 2 mana.
Yeah.
And there'd be like 1 or 2 burn spells, if you were lucky 3 over the course of 2 years, that like were all at different mana values that would hit players.
Yeah.
And it just kind of feels like where it's like, oh no, we have, you know, 6, well, there's what, 3 playable red 1-drops right now? Valdarin Epicure, Monastery of Swiftspear, and then the Saga.
Yeah.
Right? And like you used to not have that. And 2 of those would have rotated.
Right.
Right? So like if they give you like a playable 1-drop in the next year, you have 4 playable 1-drops.
Yeah.
Right? You're probably cutting something. So we talked about this before, that like when they do the like condensed formats on Arena,
mm-hmm.
you start getting like draft mechanic of the deck.
Right.
Right. You just get the best version of that draft deck ever.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're using all the cool set mechanics. But as it gets bigger, you're just like, what's the most powerful card from this set? Oh, it's a screen thing. Is that more powerful than any other card? Yes. Okay, I must play green. Let me find the best green card in 12 in I guess it'd be 12 sets.
Yeah.
Or 11 sets. And it's like, okay, well, the best green card was printed in set 6. So now you're stuck with it for 2 years.
Right.
Or 3 years of
3
just
years.
like, you know, here's 3 years of Shieldred.
Yeah.
And it's like, Shieldred's not an egregious enough card to ban,
Mm-hmm.
but then you're in the same situation of like, you've just spent $320 on 4 Shieldreds.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we're going to ban it. And you're like, that wasn't our deal. Our deal was this card is legal for 2 more years.
Yeah.
So I spent most of a PS5 on 4 pieces of cardboard.
There, no.
And then I get to play them. And you guys were like, no, we changed our mind.
Yeah.
You can play them in Pioneer or Modern or Legacy. I don't play those formats. I play Standard.
Yeah.
And there's also the like, why would I go play Standard in person when I can play it on Arena and be sad?
Well, so that's kind of, I was getting ready to ask you this question. I was going to let you finish your thought, then I was going to ask you. I think basically what we've said so far is that Standard, like I'm framing this from the point of view that Huey's trying to fix this thing and that it's worth fixing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think basically what we've just summed up is that Standard failing is not the product of like Standard being bad. It's a product of Wizards pushing Limited to be better, which I think like over the last however many sets, like I have really enjoyed playing Limited, and traditionally I'm not a Limited player. So like that's worth something. I have been playing a lot more Limited than I typically would. I do think Limited in general has gotten better.
Oh, I agree. I think there are way less games that just break down to 2 people staring at each other.
Yeah.
For like 7 turns because you just can't get through the like slog.
Yeah, I mean, even like the bad sets lately have been leaps and bounds better than, insert random 2017 draft format.
Like M15?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, agree.
So, like, is Standard failing a product of better draft formats and Arena then?
I think that it's probably... I think the biggest thing is probably Arena.
Yeah.
In that, and we've talked about this before, right? Like, when you played Standard, like, when I was playing Standard a lot, like, when I was down here by myself and could just play Match with everyone, I was playing Standard, like, Thursday and Friday.
And maybe Saturday?
Maybe Saturday, but, like, 2 days a week.
Yeah.
I was, like, playing Standard. And so maybe I would play, with like, if I did like additional testing, right? 12 games a week or 12 matches a week.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've probably played 12 matches going to the bathroom in the last week.
Yeah.
Right? Only potty time matches, 12, right? And so, I don't think that Standard is designed to hold up to that level of play.
Correct.
And I don't know if Magic as a game is designed to hold up to that level of play.
Well, so like that's another thing though, is that like we mentioned how I think one of the driving forces behind Standard's issues currently is that people, and according to Huey's first release of the Standard revitalization procedure or whatever, is like people want their decks to be legal for longer. The inverse of that is what they're doing on Arena, like pushing alchemy, right? Because when they release these new cards and rebalance cards, like the whole format's flipped on its head twice as often. And I don't see how it is, but according to the data the Wizards keeps releasing, like, Alchemy's killing it on Arena.
Yeah, I feel as though the fact that that it defaults you to Alchemy because it comes first alphabetically in the deck builder list.
Yeah.
So if you just click build a deck, you build an Alchemy deck. Could have something to do with that.
I mean, maybe. But let's operate under the assumption that that's the data that Wizards is collecting.
Why
though.
On one hand, are your players saying, "I wish my decks lasted longer"?
Right.
But then on the other hand, are playing a format that makes their decks last less long.
Right.
Right. And I think it probably just comes down to money.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like investment. Not that like Arena is cheap, but there comes a point where if you're super invested enough in Arena or Magic in general that you're like answering the Magic player survey, right? That you're probably like you and I and can play anything we want on Arena and don't have to put any money in.
Right.
Right. So now Alchemy's free.
Yep.
Right? Okay, cool. Alchemy's free now. And so now I can just do whatever I want, right? My decks can change because now there's no money.
Yeah.
But paper Magic, there's always a cost associated with it.
Right.
And so it's like, hey, I have X amount of dollars for leisure activity.
Mm-hmm.
And that X amount of dollars is less dollars than I had in 2019 to do this.
For sure.
So I would like to keep my leisure activity, but I'd also like to keep my house.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're lucky you have a house.
Yeah. My apartment, my home, my domicile, whatever. Right? But I'd like to keep this thing.
Yeah.
So like I want my leisure activity, the money I spend on it, to last as long as humanly possible.
Yeah.
So please let my decks last longer. But if there is no money constraint, or if there's less of one, then
give me something fresh.
Give me something fresh and something new.
Yeah.
So like I don't know how Standard as a format stands up to we're playing whatever
10 times more, 20 times more games.
Yeah, 20 times more games. And
yeah, I mean, realistically, like what would have been an entire tournament's worth of games, you can crank out in a couple hours on Arena.
Yeah, like I hadn't played all this week, and I woke up like Saturday, and like while watching Gavin, I got like, I played like 4 matches in like the course of like an hour.
Yeah.
Right, and that would
which
be
would have been an all-day affair.
Yeah, which would have been like an entire F&M.
Yeah.
Right. And like that makes me worry about like, we talk about like what if they brought Modern to Arena?
Yeah.
Could like Modern withstand
probably not
like the rate of play? Like Modern still like turns over relatively slowly in between sets where they put like 3 cards into the format every set. But
it turns over relatively slowly between supplemental products.
Yes. But like, so like if you were playing 50 matches of Modern a week, right? And you're just like, oh my God, if I see another Up the Beanstalk, I'm going to vomit.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, every deck is just Up the Beanstalk, Up the Beanstalk, Up the Beanstalk. And even if it's only 30% of your matches.
Yeah. It still feels like.
It just feels like too much.
Yeah.
And Standards, like, there is some variety. I guess I don't have the world's data in front of me.
I forgot that even happened.
Yeah. Emmanuel Duprov won.
Oh,
And the Citrus Assassin, Greg Orange, was in the top 8
wow.
with a like home brewed Bant control deck.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, and Captain America made the top 8.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I
Attaboy.
figured you'd like that. So Reed was on Domain Ramp. He got
Sounds like
by
a Reed
Golgari
deck.
mid range.
Oh, that also sounds like a Reed deck, though.
Yeah, it is. People just love the stupid turtle.
Yeah.
Love the turtle. They're like, oh my god, you mean I could mill a tenacious underdog? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And this like creature land is good. Oh man, sign me up. But like, you get the situation where like you have Esper Legends. It's like, well, those are the blue and black cards, and I like Rafine.
Yeah.
And like Golgari is, I like Shieldred and black removal, but I don't want to play counter spells.
Yep.
So it's the best thing I can do. Here's Esper midrange again. Domain ramp. There were one, and then Azorius Soldiers. I don't want to play Shieldred, but I still want to play Make Disappear.
Yeah. Man, Reed's deck is that's something else.
I didn't look at it. I think I played against it.
Yeah.
Yes, I played against this a few times. 100% I played against it. I know I played against this list. One, go for the throat.
Just the one.
Just the one. Not too many.
Not even one in the sideboard.
Nope. Just
the one.
But you get in this situation where like the format congeals around certain cards.
Yeah.
And the only way that would like break free is when they rotated, or their hope is the format gets big enough that some like other synergy comes in.
Yeah.
But that's literally not how we've built Magic decks in the last like 10 years.
Right.
Right? Like it's been, I need every card I draw to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be in a situation where like I need A plus B and I like make a widget. And it's like, no, I need A to make a widget. I need B to make a widget. Like it needs to do its job by itself.
Yeah.
Right? And so like, hey, I need this stuff to like fit together. Those usually don't end up working.
Correct.
Because you don't, like, you just don't get to play those cards.
Yeah.
And so what happens is every set they print like 3 cards that are like, I'm a banger.
Mm-hmm.
And then your format just becomes, how many bangers can I get in my deck?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like that seems like that's been the problematic deck for years at this point, is the how many bangers can I put in my deck.
I mean, I complained about the bangers. I just when it was like Abzan, when it was just like Abzan mid-rangey stuff, and it was like,
oh, like way back in
cool
Theros.
Yeah, like not Theros, cons, right? Siege Rhino, Anafenza, right? But like it was like, oh, it'd be like cool if like we had decks that were like, you know, synergistic and they like did something.
Yeah.
But instead it's just like, what's the best green right 2-drop? Fleece Mainline. What's the best 3-drop? Anafenza. What's the best 4-drop? Siege Rhino.
Yeah.
Like, do they do anything together? Do they synergize?
Yeah, they win the game.
Yeah. It is the most power and toughness at 2, at 3, and at 4.
Yeah.
And that is their synergy. They are the biggest at each point on the curve. And I'm going to play the 7 best removal spells. And that will be my deck.
Yep.
And we have had that same deck in some form
since then.
And like that doesn't get helped when you're like, how about you have 12 sets of bangers to look at?
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Because now this banger over here strangely makes my other banger better. It's like, this angel reanimates a 4-drop when it comes into play, and I'm playing literally the best 4-drop.
The new Galta lets you put all of the bangers in your hand into play for free.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you just get to the situation where it's like you can't simultaneously print super powerful cards that function on their own.
Right.
And be like, yeah, we really want to see some synergy decks come in here and really like work together. And as the sets get bigger, unless they like change how to design limited and they stop there is some amount of like paint by numbers.
Yeah.
In limited, where there's like just, like we said, like there's a card that does this at 2 mana in blue. There's a 2 mana black removal spell. There's some 1 mana red removal spell, right?
Yeah.
There's a 6 mana green thing that gains you 3 life when it comes into play, right? There's just like a template.
Right.
Right? And if you keep printing that template, what ends up happening is like by the end of like 3 years, it's like, yeah, I'm going to play 8 2 mana black removal spells. I'm going to play like 3 go for the throats, 2 eliminate, and 4 heartless, and 3 heartless acts. And that is my like removal suite. And it's like, oh, you just have like a ridiculous number of like black 2 mana removal spells.
Yeah.
Or it's like, well, I'm going to play this awesome black 4-drop. I'm going to play Shieldred. And then 8 sets later, there was this really good white-black rare. So I'm going to play the white-black rare because it reanimates my Shieldred or does a thing.
Yeah, whatever.
And like you just like, you can't keep printing bangers and then not expect them to get played.
Yeah.
And then be like, why don't you play the soldier synergies? Because you gave us soldiers in 1 set, and then 2 sets later you gave us knights, and so they don't work together.
Right.
Why couldn't have these just been knights, and then they could work with your knights,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would have a deck?
Yeah, but then the people that wanted to play soldiers couldn't play soldiers because all they had was knights.
I know they exist. They're on the commander tables.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I feel like there's more. I had always thought there were more people that had a play style than like a type. Right? Like, if you want so like the people that are playing White Weenie aren't like, oh man, I wouldn't be playing these cards if they weren't all humans.
Yeah.
Right? They'd be like, no, I play like Kithkin. I play planes into 1-drop, and then 2 planes into a 2-drop. Right? But like, are there people that are like, oh man, I'm so happy I get to play soldiers, and now no other card is going to work with them for the next 2 years, but I have my soldiers for this one brief shining moment in time.
Yeah.
I say that, but no, I thought someone had taken soldiers into the top 8. Oh, so 2 domain ramps, a Bant control. Oh no, there was Simon Nielsen played Azorius Soldiers, which is Esper mid range with less steps.
Right.
But the finals was an Esper mid range slap fight. No, I don't know. I wish Standard could like support the amount of play it gets, but I don't think it can.
Yeah.
And so like there's no place for it. And then you also have the situation where making it bigger is just, I think, going to exacerbate that problem.
Yeah, I don't know that making it bigger is going to fix anything, but that's why they pay Huey the big bucks, and we're just making our podcast.
Yeah. Oh, so the Jean Emmanuel Deprave deck?
Yeah.
has exactly one Make Disappear in it.
For the gotchas?
I think it's because it's an open deck list.
Yeah. Well,
tournament.
yeah, that's what I mean for the gotchas.
Yeah, it's just there so that like you have to
Put
play
the
around
fear
it.
guard into your opponent.
Yeah, so you don't feel like a dum-dum.
Yep.
The other deck looks like it's a little bit bigger. Had 4 Make Disappears. They really wanted to get you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lord Skidder, the Sewer King, getting some time to shine. The
like
bad
him.
Rabble Master.
Hey, bad Rabble Master is still a Rabble Master.
Mm-hmm. That is also graveyard hate because
right.
2023.
Because everything is now.
Because everything is. But yeah. So no, just playing standard, I just feel like it's like very similar decks. And then you're just like it's like very similar play patterns. You're playing that same game over and over and over again.
Well, this is a non-bow.
What is?
Playing 2 Lord Skidder Sewer King and 4 Denic Pious Apprentice. Denic says cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. How's Lord Skidder gonna exile cards in graveyards when Denic doesn't let you exile cards out of graveyards?
Very true. Very true.
Unacceptable. That is poor deck building, Jean-Emmanuel Depraz.
I also love that Scroll Over Fairy Mastermind.
Ooh, Rona.
Yeah, you get Rona. So I was like, why are they playing 4 mana uncommon Rona? I was like, we know that was Fairy Mastermind. You know what Denic Pious Apprentice doesn't stop?
What's that?
Cemetery Desecrator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You still get to flip your invasion.
Yep.
With your ridiculous, like, 4 mana, 4/4/6 drop.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you should scroll over Surge of Salvation, too.
Okay. Oh, Surge of Salvation, something fun?
Yep.
It's
in the sideboard.
Oh, man. My boy Grim. Wizards, you have too many effing cards if you guys can't even keep them straight.
Yeah.
I don't want the intern to lose his job, but, like, come on.
What's funny about the Fairy Mastermind one is Rona is the card above it, and Fairy Mastermind links to a different version of Rona.
But it's a different Rona.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like, I feel bad for the intern. I also love that, like, they went with the oldest printing of Thalia, Guardian of Thraben.
Yeah.
They usually go with the newest, freshest, coolest version, and they're like, no.
No. OG.
I know we've printed this card 45 times.
Yeah.
But no.
Innistrad.
We're gonna go old school.
They also used like a completely random go for the throat. They didn't use the new one or the old one.
Is that a like
the Commander precon?
Yeah. Why?
I don't know.
I am so confused.
Yep. All right.
I don't like
Well,
it.
it sounds like we've run out of gas for this episode.
You think?
Yeah.
You think us making fun of the intern that has to match the cards to the thing might be too far?
So you got anything else you want to say?
I just clicked on another deck, and Knight Errant of Eos.
Yeah.
Is the fancy version of Finn the Fangbearer.
Of course it is.
Just
good job, Wizards.
Anyway, good job. You guys are really killing it.
Yeah.
I got nothing else.
All right, let's call it.
All right. So with that, I think we got a show.
We got a show.
If you want to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Discord, Twitter, all that jazz, links are in the description below.
Yeah, hit us up. Let us know what you think. If you want to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. The first is with our TCG Player affiliate link. CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Follow that link to TCG Player. Anything you purchase will help to support the show. We would really appreciate it. If you want to support us more directly, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG is how you can do that. You can chip a couple bucks in, however much you feel like we're worth to you. You get access to about another hour's worth of content out of us in our pre-show. You get access to our show notes, so you know kind of what the upcoming show is going to be about. And you get put on my mailing list for when I have swag to come out. Now, chances are pretty good I'm not going to get these out this week. It'll either be over the weekend or next week. So if you guys are hearing this and you want to get put into this round of mailings, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG and sign up. Make sure you send me your address when you sign up so that I know where to send the goodies to. And yes. I think that's going to do it for this week.
Yeah, all right. So we'll catch you on the internets.
We'll catch you on the internets.